Slavery in Belize, what was then British Honduras, was associated with the extraction of timber, chiefly logwood and then mahogany. Since existing agreements prohibited the production of plantation crops, the difference in occupation created changes in the organization, conditions, and treatment of slaves.
Generally, a lot of people know about slavery from the Caribbean, so plantation slavery. But here we had a forestocracy where it was focused on extraction of logwood and later on mahogany, right? And that's a major difference that you would see if you come and visit this exhibition. We also talk about the cruelty of masters towards slaves, because a lot of people believe that in Belize we didn't have slavery, and we did. It wasn't this family affair. Also, you're gonna learn that Belize tongue had its own social stratification, and that largely dictates the economy, right, again, of the settlement, politics and governance.
Enslaved is an exhibit that has been opened at the Museum of Belize and focuses on the institution of slavery. Its launch today coincides with Emancipation Day, celebrated in many former British colonies within the Caribbean and the United States in observance of the liberation of slaves of African descent. The display is a collaborative effort including the Belize Archives and Records Service.
Our role here was to provide them with extracts from the many records that we have on slavery in Belize. For example, we have a full range of the censuses of the slave population from the 1800 right up to Emancipation. So we provided them with extracts of that. We have from our Grand Court records, we have extracts on the trials of slaves that took place in Belize, the case that I mentioned in my presentation on Duncan Campbell, that very well-known case of Dr. Boyne and his really harsh treatment of his slave Peggy. So records like those. We have also records of slaves escaping into the bush, but into Honduras, Guatemala, and off to their freedom. So essentially our role was to provide them with some of the primary documents reflecting the life of the slaves in Belize from the late 1700s up to Emancipation.
The exhibit also looks at the transatlantic slave trade, as well as the history of resistance in Belize.
It maps the journey of the slaves from West Africa to the Caribbean via the Middle Passage, and then obviously from Jamaica, where they were bought at the slaves market, and then they came to Belize. And then that's where we join this journey, and we talk about what happened here in the settlement. We also have a feature on modern day slavery, because what people realize is that most of those systems that were created in the colonial past still exist today.
What is one feature of this exhibit that would leave a lasting effect on anyone who comes to the Museum of Belize to look at what's going on here?
I think the slave resistance section would be the most profound, largely because a lot of people believe that Belizeans are passive and that we never resisted the conditions of slavery. And you're going to find out that we feature 3 major rebellions, which includes a major one on the banks of the Belize River in May of 1820, right, where 40 slaves, they took guns and cutlasses to their masters and they held that place hostage for 3 months. That's something incredible to learn about the history of enslavement in Belize.
With the material provided by the Archives Department, the Museum of Belize was able to create a distinct and riveting feel of what it may have been like over 2 centuries ago.
I like the way in which we work with them in a very minute size, and I like the way in which they take them and just simply blow them up and transform them. And so you sort of feel that you're a part of it. You know, so if you go in there and you read the extracts of the case of Duncan Campbell, you're sort of drawn into it in a way in which you're unable to do perhaps sitting at a desk in Belmont Panador Archive. So I like that very much, that as you go through the exhibit, you really become a part of it and begin to feel something of what was the daily struggles of the slaves here.
Among the many traditions still practiced in Belize in the wake of slavery is the Samba, which is performed by the Creole community in Gales Point, Manatee. The call and response harkens back to a time when marooned ex-slaves gathered together to sing and dance. Reporting for News 5, I am Isani Cayetano.